Hey, after legal warriors, will suing the police help your criminal case? Some people say it will. Some people say, are you nuts? Well, if you want to know the answer to this question, this is the video for you. My name is Attorney Lance Fryrear. I'm a defense attorney in Linwood, Washington. My law firm's been defending people charged with crimes all throughout Washington State for more than 25 years, and I'm putting out these videos to help educate the public. So if you find this useful, please like and please subscribe. More people get to see it. More people get the help they need. Now, as always, you're just going to jump right into it. Quite often, we'll get someone calling us up or even a current client who wants to say, I want to sue the police. I want to sue the police because they violated my rights. They didn't fully investigate this case. I shouldn't even be here if they would have done their job. And those are nice, natural, normal feelings, and they're probably accurate in some cases. I can think of a whole lot of cases where if the police would have done a more thorough investigation, even talked to the defendant at all, that perhaps they never would have had to go through this situation. And so, people in that situation, they're like, hey, they didn't do their job, and so I want to sue them. And so, is that good for the case or bad for the case? And 100% of the time, it's going to be bad for the case if there's still an ongoing criminal case. Lance, why would you say that? Why would it be bad for me to put pressure on the government by instituting a lawsuit versus the police? Well, I was a prosecutor for the first 7 years of my career. And I could tell you that if you're a prosecutor, you support one side. You're paid to support the police side. You're paid to support the government's accusations against the defendant. Now, a prosecutor is supposed to do justice, right? And there's cases where the prosecutor is given an opportunity to do justice. They're not worried about protecting their own interests. They may do justice. In that case, dismiss a case in one of these examples. So let's use a hypothetical, right? In one case, the prosecutor is presented with a whispered claim to the prosecutor. Remember, the prosecutor didn't start the case. The police start a case on the misdemeanor level. It says, hey, this officer made a bad arrest. I think this might have been racial profiling, or I think the officer had another reason why they didn't do their job. And here's all the reasons why I think there wasn't probable cause to arrest. And I've seen this officer do that before, by the way, prosecutor. You know this cop isn't a great cop. So you tell me what you want to do, but I think maybe this case should go away if you're doing the right thing. And by the way, my client's done a few things to make it easy. He had done a management class or some type of something to make it easy for you to do justice. Well, now you let the prosecutor be the hero, right? The prosecutor's the hero. They can, figure out what's right, and then without any harm to them, hopefully do the right thing and dismiss the case. Now let's look at the other approach, right? Hey, prosecutor, just so you know, this is such an egregious violation. My client's already hired another attorney and has filed a lawsuit versus your police officer. And we're going to sue the city for $1 million and do everything we can to make sure that you have to pay for the wrong that's done to my client. So what's the prosecutor think then? What happens to the prosecutor if they move to dismiss that case? Who's going to be knocking on their door, right? It's going to be the city or the government knocking on the door going, why did you dismiss the case against this person, right? If we prove the case against this person, this lawsuit goes away. Or if I at least get a probable cause filing as the prosecutor, that hurts this lawsuit that someone's filed. And so now you've given that prosecutor a personal reason to protect their own skin, right? To make sure that they don't have to answer to the superiors for letting someone go who's taking adverse action on that very issue against the people that employ them, right? That prosecutor, most prosecutors aren't going to, ignore the personal consequence in that situation. And in fact, they're going to be mad because they believe their officers did the right thing, right? Even if you start out normal as a prosecutor. I started out normal when I was a prosecutor. 7 years in, I wasn't normal, right? I'm like, bring your toothbrush to court when you come back. You're going to jail, right? When I started out, that's not how I was, but because the way the system works, it's sort of us versus them is the way it feels when you're part of the law enforcement side of the equation when it comes to prosecuting. So typically, filing a lawsuit while the case is going on is going to make it harder for your attorney to get a decent result in your case. And not even to mention whether or not you even have a lawsuit, because police officers have something called qualified immunity, right? They don't have to be Sherlock Holmes and look under every rock and do it how you think it should be done. I can't tell you what a pet peeve it is of mine of listening to people say, well, the officer should have done it this way and the officer should have done it that way. Who says, right? The software engineer has no idea how an officer should be doing X, Y, or Z, or what's expected in the community, the law enforcement community, what's normal, or what might be held to be negligent, because almost nothing will be when it comes to qualified immunity in law enforcement. What a guess. The laws are, what a surprise. I mean, the laws are set up to protect those in power. Aren't we surprised by that? Hopefully you're not. There can be some exceptions, right? I can imagine a case in time where really bad injuries, happen to a particular, defendant, right? And they're really injured, and it really looks like there's no excuse for the level of force used by the police. Well, in those cases, maybe some lawsuit for excessive force may convince the prosecutor, like, hey, maybe I should let this part of it go because I just look really bad if I'm piling on when I think clearly there's no doubt my officer was in the wrong, right? And so that's going to be a rare case, but the case could exist. So, I say 100%, it's a near 100% of the time. And usually it's just sort of stupid to do it that quick because you have time, right? Talk to a personal injury attorney or a civil rights attorney how long you have to file a suit, right? But, no harm. Once you've already got that case resolved and quietly got it resolved and your attorney has sort of pointed out what was wrong, now that it's resolved, now go ahead and sue all you want, because now there's not a downside to how the government's going to hold a line or not on your criminal case. So now this doesn't apply to just general rights violations and things like that. We may see in the comments, but I'm talking about a situation where you've got an active criminal case and you're talking about suing the police based upon whatever happened in the criminal case that you're currently defending. Almost always, you're then making the prosecutor pay attention to it. You're making the prosecutor be self-interested. You're making the prosecutor work harder to do bad things to you. And if you watch this channel, the main way we get people out of things without risk is the prosecutor's got so much to do that we give them a way out that works for you, where you don't have to risk what the gang on the jury wants to do to those accused of crimes. Because remember, it's not set up fairly. Anyone who watches this knows, anyone who's been through the criminal system knows there's nothing fair about it when it comes to how they treat defendants. And so let's not make them pay attention to our case. We can always sue them later, but remember, talk to someone so you don't blow any statute of limitations if you really do want to sue. So I hope you found that useful. If so, please like and please subscribe. More people get to see it. More people get the help they need. More importantly, if you had a criminal matter in Washington State, feel free to reach out to our firm. If we get on board to listen to what happened, we'll identify a way forward. We will be there for you. Thank you.